Studies, welcome you all to the Discrimination Against Women PAKHWADA organized by ICC JSS AHER. As quoted by Robert F. Kennedy, only those who dare to fail greatly can ever achieve greatly. It means failure is not the opposite of success, it's a part of success. We need to learn from our failures and not quit because of them. So one should have resilience to be successful. And if you educate a man, you educate an individual. But if you educate a woman, you educate a nation. It's an act. To correlate with it, I'm going to tell you a story about a Samira, who is a just 14 years old girl, who is a dropout from the school. Soon after her dropped out, her deprived parents arranged her marriage, after which she stayed at home to cook and clean for her husband's family. Like all other women in her small fishing community in Kerala's Malappuram district. When the government of India's Naya Manzil, that is New Horizon program, came calling, offering school dropouts from the minority communities a second chance to complete their education and learn a marketable skills, her husband let her join. A year and a half later, Samira, along with 3 other women from the program, set up Bismil Tailoring, a home-based venture that took in receiving assignments from the community, and her work was appreciated by the customers and she was earning good money. However, hardly a few months after, they had started a lockdown enforced because of COVID-19. Orders dried up, taking a heavy duty on budding enterprise. 4 months later, optimistic Samira's confidence bubbled out of her, and although not everyone of her unit was able to resume work, they had received several orders for masks. And she was sure that their tiny unit would bounce back as soon as the lockdown was lifted. Her education and training, as well as her exposure to the outside world, had instilled in her new self-assurance that she could make a go of things despite the temporary setbacks. Samira firmly believes that education, skills, and exposure can herald life-changing empowerment, enabling the woman to blossom and bring out their full potential. Samira plans to study further and become a better entrepreneur. She wants the other woman to grow along with her. So, education, skills, and exposures brings life-changing empowerment. Yes, today's first topic is on women resilience in higher education institutions. I call upon the chairpersons of the day, Dr. Renuka and Dr. Mamta ma'am, to the dais. And Dr. Kokila ma'am, you also join. I now call Ms. Rupa to introduce Chairperson Dr. Renuka.
Dr. Renuka M., Professor of Community Medicine and Deputy Controller of Examination, JSS AHER, Mysore. She is an academician and administrator with 23 years of experience at JSS AHER. She has actively participated in her career as an evaluator, presented scientific papers and posters on various platforms, and published over 60 papers to date. She has organized various academic research and social initiatives. She has a PhD with the area of interest in tribal health, and she has authorized a few chapters in areas of nutrition and health. She looks forward to going on short trekking on weekends and has learned to ride the bike and owns Avenge Cruise.
Welcome you, ma'am. Now I call Ms. Aishwarya to introduce Dr. Mamta HK.
Thank you, ma'am. Today we have Dr. H.K. Mamta, who is a dentist by profession, pursued MBA in Human Resources and her degree of philosophy. She is currently the Associate Professor and Head of Department of Health System Management Studies. We welcome you, ma'am. She has an experience of 2 years as a program coordinator for the online program of MBA Hospital Administration at JSS HAR. 9 years as a program coordinator for MBA Hospital Administration at JSS Academy of Higher Education and Research, Mysore from 2012 onwards. She is also the project coordinator at JSS Academy of Higher Research and Education from September 2010 to October 2013. She is also the lifetime member of the Indian Dental Association as well as the Academy of Hospital Administration. She is also the member of Consortium of Accredited Healthcare Organization in the Student Engagement Committee. She is a member in the Board of Management at JSS Academy of Higher Education and Research. We once again welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you, Aishwarya. Now, the resource person for the topic Women Resilience in Higher Education Institutions, Dr. Divya Prasanna. I welcome you, ma'am. And now I call Ms. Himani to introduce Dr. Divya Prasanna.
Dr. Divya P. Kumar is Assistant Professor, Department of Community Medicine, JSS Medical College. We welcome you, ma'am. Dr. Divya P. Kumar is the awardee of the prestigious Ramalinga Swamy Re-Entry Fellowship from the Department of Biotechnology, Government of India. Dr. Kumar has pursued her degree of philosophy under the mentorship of Dr. Arun J. Sanyal and Dr. Murthy Karnan at Virginia Commonwealth University, Richmond, Virginia, USA. She has obtained her postdoctoral training with T32 postdoctoral fellowship from the National Institute of Health, USA. Having spent a decade in the United States, Dr. Divya currently serves as an assistant professor in the Department of Biochemistry, JSS Medical College, JSS AHER of Higher Education and Research since 2019. Her research work at JSS Medical College is focused on understanding the molecular mechanisms of non-alcoholic steatohepatitis, unraveling the molecular links between inflammation and cancer in NASH-associated HCC, characterizing the mechanisms under the pathophysiology of HCC, preclinical studies in NAFLD. Dr. Divya serves as an associate editor in the Journal of Frontiers in Oncology and as junior editorial board member of Hepatoma Research. She is also an editorial board in Journal of Clinical and Translational Hepatology. Her bibliography to date is substantial, with 36 peer-reviewed articles in premier high-impact factor journals. Her research work has been recognized by many awards, which is an attestation of the high quality and significance of her work. Dr. Divya P. Kumar presently is the principal investigator. Outside professional life, she loves being a mother, homemaker, and enjoys spending time with family and reading books.
Welcome you, ma'am, and over to you, ma'am.
Good afternoon, one and all. Offering my humble pranams to the lotus feet of His Holiness, I take this opportunity in thanking Kokila ma'am and her organizing team for giving me this opportunity. Thanks for the kind introduction. So it's an honor that Renuka ma'am and Mamata ma'am are chairing the session. So
today's talk, or more I want to put it as a conversation, because talk is something that a person delivers, rest of you listen and then just go back home. But a conversation will always lead to a take-home message. So today it will be an interactive session where I say what I know, or I convey whatever information I know or I have been inculcating, because if I just Google and give you some of the information, that was going to be a mere talk. Rather, I share my life journey or whatever principles or ethics I've been following through my career or the lifestyle that would be inspiring to the younger generations. And this has been seeing how leaders have been going through so far. So this will be more like a conversation I share, and I would also request the audience to speak. So today's topic as such is the resilience of women in higher education. So when we hear the term resilience, what are the points that come up to you? Resilience is a term that most of us were not aware of because it is a little complex terminology, but after COVID-19, I think resilience has become a very common term, which has been used in newspapers routinely when you see it. So I would like to request the audience, maybe one or two faculties and the younger students, to just speak about what resilience is all about to you. What do you feel when I say a woman is resilient, or resilience in general? Just a couple of volunteers would help. Maybe one or two younger faculties. Men at the back. Resilience anta ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ತಕ್ಷಣಕ್ಕೆ what is that term that comes across? Facing the challenges, okay. Ability to get back, get going again and again. Any other terms? Okay, so let me introduce the term again, because resilience is familiar with COVID-19, but resilience of women is something which all of us have been neglecting these days. Okay, so something which all of us have to be aware. So when I say resilience, here the concept is going to be very much limited to the perception of higher education. When I talk resilience of women, you can talk it in different perspectives. Be it a homemaker, be it a professional, be it a woman working in a corporate sector. But today's conversation will be very much limited to women's resilience in higher education institution. So telling that, so resilience in higher education would work on these three characteristics of feature. One is supposed to possess adaptability, flexibility, and learning. A person should know how to learn, unlearn, and relearn if one has to survive and sustain in higher education. Adaptability, you have to be able to adapt to the system. You can't be rigid. You have to understand how the system works so that you change yourself, modify, transform yourself to get adapted to the higher institutions. Flexibility. You have to be flexible in accepting the rules and regulations of the higher education and try to inculcate that and progress. So as a couple of you said, what is resilience? It is just that working well under stress, overcoming the challenges or setbacks, working hard but also efficiently. Last, but the critical is accepting feedback without getting defensive. This is something which women being resilient has to inculcate, has to possess. In general, a man also, but this is one characteristic that keeps lacking, and this has to be inculcated, that we accept the feedback without getting offended or defensive. So why don't we talk resilience of men in higher education? Why always resilience of women in higher education? Why do you think this is a topic, or always a platform is created so that we always talk about women education, women empowerment, resilience in women, women, women? So any thoughts on that, please? Why always that we talk about resilience in women? Why is it important? Students, why do you think life as a student in higher education of yours is entirely different from another man who is also studying along with you, equally to you? Do you see any difference or is it the same? The major problem that we are still at this century, we are creating a platform to talk about women resilience is because none of the women speak out or speak up. So can we break that and start bringing that change? Until we speak up for what is needed, the change doesn't happen. And until that change doesn't happen, all of us like this for the next 10 years will also be sitting like this, creating platforms, talking about give us empowerment, give us resilience, give us this, that, beggingness will never go. So let's break the chain today. Students, feel free. This is a very informal conversation. It's not a formal talk. So feel free to say what you like, what you want. Why do you think women need to be more resilient in every field she goes? Today's talk is on higher education. Faculties? Yes, good. We always need some time to break the ice. Yes. Very good. Okay, as a student, what are the challenges that you are encountering?
Honestly, I never faced any discrimination in my family whatsoever. But I found out that my friends, mostly in their family, they don't support them to go in higher education. After second PU, they'll be like, get married, get settled. They won't encourage them to go forward.
Okay, so that's one of the perspective from the student side, faculty side. Why do we need to be more resilient than the working men of our group? Yes, very good.
I'm Dr. Nandish. I'm from.
Thank you so much. Because a man getting up and speaking for women should become the normal of this life. Yes.
We are speaking about resilience of women in higher education, but not men. Correct. And
Yes.
This is need of the hour because it's not like women are any lesser. That's why we are speaking. No, it's not that. Actually, at the level of higher education, the responsibilities of women, like home responsibilities. If I see my colleagues, we'll all be we work together. Okay, but if we compare them with us, they have to take care of the family and their home, and they have to do everything at home. Then they have to come to the college, and they have to work same like us. But for men like us, I don't have any I don't hold back anything to tell about us, we men. Like we don't have that kind of problems like compared to women.
Thank you so much.
Because my wife is there, she'll take care. My in-laws are there, my mom is there, they'll take care. They'll take women actually, they'll take care of men also. But at the same time, they have to take care outside world also, the working, the working environment. And it is not easy. And that's why we need to talk about resilience of women in higher education. Because they are doing much more than men. I mean, in this type.
Yeah, perfectly said. So we have men who are sensible, who are sensitized, and therefore half of my job here is done. Thank you so much. So exactly what he said. May I know your name, please?
I'm Dr. Nandish.
Dr. Nandish, thanks for coming.
Thank you.
So as Dr. Nandish said, it's very clear that for a man to run the race, he does have obstacle. I don't say no. Then I would be a very feministic lady standing here and talking about it. They do have obstacles, maybe very, very few, comparatively to women. But if you see a woman who has to run the race along with all her household activities, personal commitments, this race becomes so tedious for her, and always there is a stone which is ready to pull her leg. Okay, no matter how much hard she tries and tries, this ball behind the leg is always pulling her. And you have to applaud. There are many women who cross this and still reach the target without giving up. Okay, now comes the point. I think the ICC committee has made it mandatory that, very glad it is not limited to women. It is mandatory that all the men and the boys should attend, which is good. But why is it important that we involve man to be a part of this discussion? This is because we, with all respect, we want to say that as a woman representing the other women, without you, this conversation or discussion will never be complete, because we as a society live together, work together. So you being a part of all such discussion would make a difference and is very necessary for us to bring about a change. So thanks to all the men who have been here, because a men of equality or equality respect women's equality. Equal for equal is always a good way. Men are a part of the solution, and therefore we give a good applause for all the men who are here off-site as well as on-site at the duty site. Thanks for coming and encouraging all of us so that we bring about a change, and you being a part of it will make a huge impact. So all of us now, I think, should stand up and give a good ovation to JSS AHER. I would say why. Please stand up and give a good ovation to JSS AHER. Thank you. I'll tell you the reason why. We are conducting this program because it has been mandated by ICC, but without even being mandated, JSS AHER is following this very sincerely, putting into action. This is the heads of the department list, which was recently released. If you see 14 departments, out of 14 departments, 7 departments are headed by women. Okay? This is what JSS AHER compared to other higher education institutions. Equal number, but you also have to see the equity. Equal opportunity is also being given to women. So JSS AHER stands out at this perspective, respecting women leadership, giving them equal opportunity as men. So we don't need to conduct a special session to say that we have women empowerment, but it is already put into action by JSS AHER. So the key point, or why are we here today? To discuss about the women resilience in higher education and research. So before I give you, the practical solutions or implementation that all of us can employ in our daily life, I would like to hear the challenges you face in the higher education as a student versus as a faculty. I don't want to go back to the students because, as already one of the students mentioned, it's a transition period from an undergrad to a master levels. The degree of education is different. The amount of studying becomes, the workload is increasing. At the same time, a lot of distraction also happens at the higher education to the boys and girls. There is a transition, economic barrier. Financially, you have to pay more fees, and then your family has to support it. So that is also an added up stress. Other than that, cultural barriers, as one of you said, women, though they are let out to study, at the back, there are family planning that you get married. Maybe let her finish a 2 years master's, we will get her married in the next year. So all of these this is something which you keep hearing often and often, which is also a little obstacle which you have to come over. Other than that is a fear of future. You always have a fear. What if I complete my master's and the other person who is entering into my life will never encourage me to do whatever I like? So that is another thing. So whatever profession you are equipped with or whatever training you are pursuing, is it enough to the competition, to the outside world? Will the family support you to go out of home to pursue your career, or will they get married? If I get married, will that person or a man support my vision, my career, and the family of the man are they going to be supportive? Now, all this sort of fear of future is always there in a woman as a student in higher institutions. Other than that, the next would be the obstacles the faculty faces. Anything that which you feel is a challenge again? NEP is bringing up so many policies. It's becoming hectic day by day. Whether you like it or not, we have to do it. Changes in technology is something which we all face because every now and then technology is changing, softwares are changing, you have to get adapted. Before COVID, all of us were used to the offsite teaching. Suddenly COVID came, all of us had to learn the technology and go back to the Zoom meeting. Initial 1-2 months was really hectic for everybody to understand how the Zoom operates. Institution had to procure license. So the technology now, everybody feel so comfortable even doing an online teaching than the offsite teaching nowadays. So with technology, as the day moves, as faculty in the higher education, you are demanded or expected to have advanced technology knowledge. Student demographics. Every year you see different student, different culture, the way you have to, work with them, the way you have to teach them, everything varies. Different people, different students from different states come in, their cultures are different. So as a faculty, you should know how you have to handle that particular student, and this culture varies across. So each student has to be trained in a different manner. That's a very big challenge to the faculties. Educational policy, as I said, every year, every single government would bring in a new change, and we have to follow it whether we like it or not. That's an additional burden. Different electives have to be done. The way you evaluate the students is different. So educational policy is a huge burden, especially this year where the BSc is made 4 years, MSc 2 years. You don't know whether you have to advocate students go for 3-year BSc or go for integrated MSc BSc. Even that sort of promoting student which subject they have to take has become a challenge as a faculty. Gender bias, I don't want to stress on that because all of you are aware there are male faculties. You have to make sure you work with them, go along with them, work properly. So those gender bias is always there irrespective of the institution. Work-life balance. There's so much workload at home, kids, family, all that have to be maintained very well. And of course, you have to balance that along with your profession. So work-life balance is a challenge to the working faculty at higher education institutions. So what is one single mantra that I have found very good? You may Google hundreds of it, but what has worked for me so far is something which I want to share. Because if I share all the super duper stuffs which are in the Google, that doesn't make sense because as you leave the room, you would find it impractical. So one single mantra, which I also say my lab members to follow. This was a tweet which was tweeted by Haridam Ghosh on Twitter, maybe 6 months back. And this perception or this tweet changed my entire perception, being it running a lab or in life. Let me say what it is. Complain, but yet perform. Okay? You keep complaining, it is important because you have to say where the problem is, right? But don't keep doing the same task. What is required in a higher institution is that you perform despite all the odds. Why? Until you complain, the institution is not going to improve or the system is not going to improve. But unless you perform, they are not going to listen to you. Okay? This is a trick. You keep complaining, you become a nonsense to the institution. But despite all the odds, you keep performing, they hear you because they know that despite all the odds you're performing, why not give a better facility so that their performance can be doubled or tripled. This is a strategy to me maybe which also works in life. You keep complaining that you have problems in life, that's not going to solve. Rather you find a solution and come out of it. That is where the whole trick and trade of all the problems or how you face the problem works in life as a general or else particularly in higher institutions. So what are the obstacles that we face? is something which I would like to discuss. The first thing is, how do we fight discrimination, which is important. As you see in the picture, for a man, it's an easy path, but for a woman, she would always have obstacles coming on the way. You have to break the bias. You have to sensitize the boys at home, because a boy who is a son and a brother at home becomes a husband, uncle, a father in the future. So sensitizing boys in the at home makes a huge impact how they deal with the higher institutions, higher education institution. So breaking that is important. Obviously, this doesn't happen in JSS, but there are institutions which pay less to women compared to men. Though they do equal load of work, women are paid low compared to men. So these are some biases which have to be broken in the higher education institution. And this lead has to be taken by all the women. So if you don't speak out, maybe the first thing that you have to start from today is to start speaking up. Finding solutions. So unless you try to find a solution for the existing problem, nothing is going to change. So how do you find a solution? You seek help, you seek support, you talk to your seniors who have undergone the same. So seeking support, finding a solution for it will have a huge impact on changing or bringing in change in the higher education institutions. So for this to happen, all women have to stick together, which is lacking in the system. We women don't get together very often. How many of you go for tea when you have a break? How many women, form a group and go for a tea? Many times, or at least you make a point. Okay, that's good. But there are men who always make a point, they go for tea together. You see the difference? So the culture of sticking together is there in men, but it is somehow lacking in women. So that is something which we have to inculcate. We make sure that all of us support each other, back up each other for every circumstances of what is happening in the higher education institution. Sticking together makes a difference. Finding strength in the community makes a huge difference. Getting along the community, how much are you going to do to the community, standing as a community, forming groups, women empowerment. It doesn't make sense you create a platform and talk about women empowerment unless and until you make a point that you make it happen at home, and you also teach the gender, the person who is there working with you also being sensitized towards it. So finding that solution within the community is very, very important. So before moving to a creative outlet, I would share my own experience when it comes. So spending a decade in the United States, it was sort of a cultural shift. Though I'm born and brought up, that 10 years had changed a lot. Being a student in India is different from becoming a faculty in India. There's a huge, huge difference. But I would like to share one experience of giving an instance how finding strength in community or sticking together matters. I work in the Department of Biochemistry. Fortunately, touchwood, we have good colleagues, good women leaders. That coordination among us is so good that we work together and are very happy. So this is a conversation which I was sharing with Suma ma'am, who is the vice principal and who was the HOD previously. Now Akila ma'am has taken over the HOD. One important thing that the conversation which we were talking about came up. And she said, I was addressing a little problem which I was facing. And she said, don't worry, I will take care of it. The only sentence she said is, I have faced it. I don't want you to face the same. Okay. This attitude of a women leader will make a huge difference in anyone leading the institution. I encountered a problem. I want to make sure my younger generation doesn't go through the same. Most of the time, the human psychology is like, it happened to me, right? Let them also suffer. Or that sort of pessimistic environment or that sadistic mentality that we have is so much that we fail in encouraging the younger generation to lead forward. But ironically, I think I had respect for her, but the moment she said that, my respect doubled. Telling that I would be there, I will take care, I will make sure that doesn't happen to all the younger generations in the department. So this one attitude of women leader is very much important for the improvement of an higher education institution. So other than that, what is that you can do? Creating an outlet for yourself. Have hobbies. Don't limit yourself to work, family. I think this was spoken in the previous conversation also in the previous talk. As girls bringing up in the family, we are always told, serve the family first and then you take care of yourself. So I think the time comes where you have to break this. You take care of yourself. Self-care is not selfishness. So have that in mind. You take care of yourself. You make sure that you are healthy and then you can take care of others' health too. So that important point of you balancing your life, both at workplace as well as at home, is important. Having some hobbies inculcated, how well you can inculcate that hobby gives you a different perspective for life. At least you would have a change out of workplace, out of family. Don't always try to be perfect. I think this was something which we had a discussion forum for career trajectory of women in STEM. And that is the point when Dr. Shubha Tole said, I think all of us are behind being perfect. We want to be a perfect wife. We want to be a perfect mother. We want to be a perfect sister. Just stop going behind the perfection. Be good at work. It is okay. One day you don't take care or you don't feed your kid. You don't need to feel guilty about it. It is very normal. Don't take up everything on your head and try to, say, I want to be perfect. I want to be perfect. Be a normal human being. I think that is something women have to understand, that we are not super powered, caliber. We do, but then don't try to prove it to everybody. Take care of yourself. Once you take care of yourself and you are happy, you can spread the happiness in the family as well as the workplace. Overcoming the odds, if you are very healthy, you are very happy, you will have all caliber to overcome the odds. You don't need any special attention from anybody. So if you are healthy, you are fit and fine, you are happy, so that will be taken care by itself. Giving up. I intentionally put a picture of a man here because it's not just women who don't give up, okay? Men also give up. So that is a very normal procedure. So when you give up, don't feel guilty about it. But most of the time, make sure you don't give up. So the picture clearly says you went until the end, and the nth moment you have given up what you want to possess. So not giving up what you want is also a characteristic that should be possessed by a woman to survive in the higher education institution. Sharing thoughts by speaking out. I think we witnessed it until for 5 minutes, nobody wanted to speak out. So this is something which we have to teach our girls and women at home. When you don't like something, when you like something, at least speak out. Speak out and say what you like and what you dislike. Why? Because if you don't speak up, people will assume that you're happy with what you have. Even when you want to feed a little kid, until and unless the child says he or she is hungry or give a signal through a moment of cry, you don't feed the kid. And you expect others to understand an adult, that's not going to happen. So if you don't speak up, people will think you are happy with what you are and therefore nothing needs to be done. This happens at higher education institution. If you don't speak up, they think you're happy. So speak up, but as I said, you perform and speak up. That is very, very important. So with all this, you may be encountering problems, you may be encountering odds, but then you have to still keep up the hope with you to be alive, be pursuing what you like despite all the odds. That little hope, if you give up, I think nothing is going to work. Changes are going to happen and that is going to take time a bit. So if you are in a rush to make it happen, it may not happen. So there is nothing that you have to get demotivated about it. So have hope, see that we all together bring up that change wherein women become more and more resilient to cope up with the expectations or the demands of higher education institutions. So this is something which I want all of you to pay attention. The last 2-3 slides are very important, okay? So we want to live, not just survive. Survive, everybody are surviving. We eat, we drink for the purpose of existence, but don't let it happen. You start living your life. That is very important and that creates a huge impact on how you perform both at home and workplace. The first one, establishing and maintaining the command of life is important. How you process your dialogue, how you communicate with people, how you set your social boundaries, making strategic life choices, very important. Cultivating enjoyable and meaningful interest. This is how you have to live your life to make it more happy and meaningful. Other than that, enjoying or employing your personal resources, you have to embrace the joy of life. Realizing what are your inner strength, what are your weaknesses is also important because you don't want to take up tasks that really bothers you. Know your strength, know your limitations so that you know how well you can be successful in taking up that job. Assessing the responsibilities again, see what can be taken up by you and what not. You don't need to take up all the load. You have to be cared by others, and at the same time, you have to care for others too. So this also becomes very important when you're working at a workplace. Replacing acceptance is very good. You have to accept the present. You have to accept the changes that is ongoing. In that way, you know that you don't keep finding an explanation for your excuses that happens. So all this is what I'm talking in perspective of how a woman has to inculcate resilience in higher education institutions, okay? So all this together put is called as emotional intelligence. So I'm not going to go through because the next speaker will shed light upon it. So I didn't talk anything about how you can empower the emotional intelligence. So that will be enlightened by ma'am. So this are the stuff which I want you to remember or the take-home message of this conversation we had for the last 15-20 minutes. Life is not about you keep expecting, hoping, and wishing that this is going to happen. It is all about what you are going to do, what you are, and what you're going to make it. So if this doesn't work out, you can't expect something to change overnight. Okay, don't keep wishing and hoping that somebody someday will talk for you. You talk so that you can bring a change, and that change, at least if it doesn't happen in your generation, it is going to happen in the next generation. Okay, that sort of future perspective has to be there. The other one is getting upset for everything what is happening in your life is never going to help. You have to get up first. You set what is right for your path and then start leading your life. So stop getting upset for everything and anything that happens to you. Until you break it, nobody else is coming to break it for you. So this is the last story that I want to share, which I request all of you take home this along with you. This is something which I keep seeing whenever I get upset, be it workplace, be it at home. Because all of us do agree that not all days are going to be the same. No matter how much you perform, how much you publish, how much of work you do, there are days that goes on and off. You don't get what you expect. But this one story, which I always admire, just a glimpse of it would change my mood within that minute. Let me share that with you. This was something which I accidentally found on an Instagram. So the story goes like this. I once asked a very successful woman to share a secret with me. She smiled and explained. Let's see what she says. I started succeeding when I started leaving small fights for small people. So don't keep grumbling and pick up that fight for everything you want to in your life. That loses your peace. What did she do? She stopped fighting for those who gossiped about her. She stopped fighting with her in-laws. She stopped fighting for attention at workplace, which is not needed. If you're performing, it does get noticed. She stopped fighting to meet people's expectations out of her. You can't keep pleasing everyone every day. Okay, that's not going to happen. If people are happy, no matter what you do, they'll be happy. So you don't try pleasing people every single day. She stopped fighting for the rights with inconsiderate people. This is very important. You don't need to explain yourself to people who don't understand. That's going to be a waste of time. Lastly, she stopped fighting to please everyone, which is very good. So what happened? She stopped fighting to prove that she's not wrong to anybody. She left the fight for those who have nothing else to do, keep fighting. So that is a good way to quit. What happened because of that? She started fighting for her dreams, for a vision, for our ideas, and for our identity, and of course for our destiny. These are the stuffs which we women have to be fighting for, not fighting against the simple odds that come in life. Once you have this focused, we keep talking in the lab also that there are ups and downs in the daily routine activity, but don't put yourself down. The only purpose of completing or accomplishing our work keeps us motivated, irrespective of what happens. So if you are very focused, if you are focused for your vision, dreams, ideas, and you know that this is where I want to reach, this is my destiny, you will be okay. You will start thinking that I gave up all the small fights because that is meant for people who don't have any other work. So the moment you give up fight with small people, you become big and you become successful. You are contented, you are peaceful. So this is the key. Take home. Some fights are not worth to be fought. Okay? Most of the people, you may be thinking, I also have thought about it. There are two students in a class. One is super intelligent, the other is of an average. But you see that the average person very successfully accomplishing in life versus the person who is really good at subject or whatever it is. Because people who are smart in picking up their fight are successful. If you start fighting for every single thing in your life, you are distracted, misled. So be wise in choosing your fight to be successful in life. This is very important for a woman to succeed in the higher education institution. So with this, I thank the audience for your attention. Thank you so much. So if you have anything to share, any questions, please feel free. Or else the next speaker can take over. Thank you. Yeah.
It was a very neat and clean presentation, Dr. Divya. Thank you so much. Well, I would just like to add upon the few things that you really touched upon. I think for the last 15 days now, we have been constantly discussing about women empowerment and, encouraging them to speak, whether they are going through abuse or at workplaces. But for me personally, women empowerment is not just about her speaking, but it's also being able to create a conducive ecosystem. And the most important thing is receptivity. So a self-made woman, a confident woman, an assertive woman, mind you, not arrogant, but assertive woman, is able to express her opinions. And whenever she is called opinionated, take it as a compliment and say thank you. The problem is when you don't have an opinion. So, but the challenge, I don't like the word failure, so I would like to call it as a challenge. The challenge is the ecosystem not yet being able to be receptive of her ideas and opinions. I think that is real empowerment, when she is able to speak and people around her are able to receive it positively.
This doesn't happen single-handedly. As I said, you have to strengthen within the community. All women have to stick together to make it happen. It's not like one person standing up and talking for, I think that is why we are lagging even today. That is why we are still discussing about women empowerment today, where we don't talk about men empowerment, right?
Yes.
All are educated. Maybe the last 2 generations have been getting education, but still we are talking about women empowerment. To me, what I feel is, though we are giving education to women, I think the lack is where they're not sticking together to make it happen. So maybe once they stick together, strengthen the community along, I think that is where the change can happen.
Yes.
So be opinionated, tell the audience, but at the same time, be mindful that how you tell it, because that would make a huge difference.
Yes.
So that's the trick, how you handle the situation also at the time. Yeah, that I agree to that.
And also as resilience does not mean that we cannot be vulnerable. As women, we are naturally emotional and sensitive beings. So you can always seek therapy, or you can always have good friends at workplace to let out whenever you feel vulnerable. And another thing is, don't seek sympathy, but there is definitely a need for empathy. This is not subjective to women alone, but even men have bad days. They would be going through their own challenges. So empathy is something that we need to inculcate at workplaces also. Empathy towards each other. That's all.
Agree. I think you have to be empathetic. Like as the saying goes, you can be whatever in this world. You can be a pro-chancellor, vice-chancellor, any of the position. I'm putting it in terms of higher education institution. Being kind, being good, being approachable makes you great irrespective whether you hold the position or not. So maybe be whatever you want, but be kind to the colleagues, be empathetic makes a difference. So I think all of us should join hands together to make this happen. And probably we will not have this session anymore in the coming days. That is the real change that we can bring about. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Divya, for your great talk on women resilience in higher education. And thank you for your mantra. I request everyone to adapt that till you are in higher education. The best and the most beautiful things in the world cannot be seen or even touched. They must be felt with the heart. Yes, your emotions. Emotional intelligence is very important skill set, not just to be happier, but also to succeed professionally, which has been told by Daniel Griffiths. Emotional intelligence is the ability to perceive, interpret, demonstrate, control, and use emotions to communicate with and relate to others effectively and constructively. Now we have Ms. Padma Shri, who is going to talk on emotional intelligence in everyday's life. I call you on stage. Now I call Rupa to introduce Padma.
Ms. Padma Shri is an emotion counselor since 12 years, and she is pursuing her PhD in emotional intelligence, which she is completing by this month end. Basically, she is from MBA finance background from SDM IMD. She has worked in the finance industries for 10 years in Vijaya Bank, HDFC Home Loans, and Max Life Insurance. She pursued to take up counseling in 2010. She has quit her job and pursued her passion, which she is still continuing. She is passionate about connecting to people and to themselves and also to the world around them. She loves to sing and aspiring to learn dance next year. Her enthusiasm to life is increasing with age, and that is inspiring. How she does that is what she will present in the presentation.
Over to you, Padma.
For that introduction, and good afternoon, everyone. I know it's afternoon, a late afternoon, and all of you would want to go home, take rest, right? And still, I'm going to ask you, because of that, I'm going to ask you, how are you feeling? Just look at it. How are you feeling? Just look at your body. Just feel your body. Can someone shout out how you're feeling? Tired. Yes, tired. What else? I didn't hear that. Sleepy. Yes, sleepy. Very good. What else? Cold. Yes, you're feeling cold. That's the body. You're feeling tired. Yes, I get that. You're feeling sleepy. All of it of the body. What are you feeling? Okay, that was a lie. Anyways, yes, I'm going to talk about that, which we call feeling. And for that, in fact, the topic that was taken, emotional intelligence in everyday life, I would like to start with my own story regarding that. When I said, there was this me who was a student like you many, many years back, and I did my graduation, I did my master's all because I wanted to earn money and wanted to be independent, not ask my father money anymore, So, and I also wanted to get into an organization which could pay me well, like everyone else. And then I go join, and then I get married also to my classmate. And then I have everything. So I have my family, I have a job, I have a husband who earns well also, I'm also earning well. And then comes to children, I have a girl and I have a boy. So that is actually considered success, isn't it? Yeah. Everybody who sees me from outside is like, oh, wow, she's so educated. She's got an educated husband. She's got 2 beautiful children, a boy and a girl. It's so complete, isn't it? But that's not how it looks from the inside, isn't it? Only from the outside, it looks rosy, but the person who's facing it faces it very differently. And so a day comes when, and the issues were going on, there were emotional issues. I am emotionally very, very expressive, and my husband was very, very emotionally unexpressive or inexpressive. So, and there comes the conflict, the fight that Dr. Divya was talking about, the small, small fights that happen, take over your life, and then everything goes down slide, isn't it? And it went down slide. And then there comes a day in the year of 2009 where a major accident happens in my life, wherein I lose my daughter who's 8 years old. My in-laws also go away. Everybody goes away, 4 of them in one accident. And then there I am standing and looking at 4 bodies, don't know what to do, how to forward my life. And on top of it, I'm a very emotional person. I didn't know how to handle it. Does anyone know how to handle such a situation? But life does give us such situations, isn't it? And then I had to do something that ma'am was saying, Dr. Divya was saying about adapting to the situation. And I did adapt. So, and then what happened later? And then along with that came another shock. My husband didn't want to stay with me anymore. Then there's another situation to deal with. So this is what life gives you. This is what life throws at you. But then on top of it, how do you still be resilient to life, love life that way, and still go ahead, is what the story is all about. Each one's story, your story, my story is all this. That's what, the picture that was, there about women when they are in the start. They have so many hurdles, so many barriers to cross. Even men have their barriers. I will not undermine that. But then the culture has given women more barriers, is what we see. And so along with that, if you have life throwing such situations at you, then you need to have a bigger, a heart, I suppose. I don't know, a bigger brain or bigger heart to deal with all of that. So one of the, skills that really, that really helped me to actually cross all of this and to be where I am today is emotional intelligence. That really, really helped me, not only on an everyday basis, but also whenever bigger challenges and smaller challenges, all the challenges then when they came, I could face them because of these skills that I had. So I will go through the major skills that in theory are there in what we call as emotional intelligence, and take you through how you can actually bring them into your everyday life, right? So before that, I will actually decipher the meaning of emotions, or what you have that phrase as emotional intelligence for you. But before that, let me ask you, this journey of going through understanding your own emotional intelligence is needed and required only when you have one type of mindset. Now, that I would like to call, I will give you 2 choices. It is up to you to choose what mindset you want. Do you want a growth mindset or do you want a fixed mindset? Of course, if you sit here and look at a choice, you will say, oh, I would always want a growth mindset, isn't it? Who would say, I don't want a growth mindset? Nobody would say. But then do you know yourself whether you would actually go into the growth mindset, or you are in a fixed mindset? Would you have the guts to say, I am in the fixed mindset right now? Very, very few of us have, because we are in a disease called denial disease. We all deny. We keep denying. And I also denied many years, 5 years of my life, when my ex-husband, now ex-husband, he said he doesn't want me. I was like, he was the one who chose me. He was the one who proposed to me, and we got married. How dare he say that? He cannot. I cannot break this marriage. I fought for 5 years to get that marriage back. Didn't happen. I was in denial for 5 years. Was I in growth mindset? No. I was in fixed mindset. But if somebody had asked me which mindset you are in, I would have said growth mindset. But in reality, I was in a fixed mindset. Right? And I was saying, no, he is wrong. He was the one who chose me and we got married. He promised he'd be with me. How can he leave? So I was blaming him. Was I responsible for my own life? No. Sitting and blaming someone else doesn't give me my life, doesn't give me a growth mindset. So the first thing you need to see in your life, what you're doing, according to what you're doing, you need to first understand and ask yourself, am I really in a growth mindset, or am I fixed about something? Ask yourself right now, because life happens right now. And you don't need to answer to anyone. The only person you need to answer is you yourself. I asked, now when I look back, I said, I was in a rigid, fixed mindset. I was not in a growth mindset. After 4 or 5 years, I realized I've lost those 5 years. And there's no point going behind someone who doesn't want you. You need to now, and a dream actually opened me. A dream that saved me, my life. And actually dream, that's a dream that I saw when I was sleeping, by the way, that night. And that dream told me, take the driver's seat of your life. And that's when I took. And that's when came the levels where I started to look at, where do I need to be? What is it the need? What is it that I want to actually get into? So why I put this slide is for all of us to understand that we have needs that we start to look at from basic to the most important needs that we look at. You cannot actually ask someone to think of, are you reading books? If that person doesn't have anything to eat, can you? You cannot. So starting from the physical needs of food, shelter, and then you have, if you start to look at the safety needs, the hope that's provided, and you have your parents who are taking care of you, the financial safety that you, without which, but all of these needs, if not fulfilled, or even if fulfilled, include or involve emotions. Everybody can connect to this, can you? All of these needs, whether they are fulfilled or not fulfilled, you will have emotions about them. If they're fulfilled, you are in pleasant emotions, isn't it? Oh, I got this. But then how long will that pleasant emotion stay with you? Like this, it goes. You're happy now. Tomorrow you didn't get something, you're unhappy. Isn't it? So when it is not fulfilled, do you leave it like this or do you carry it forward? If one need is not fulfilled at that age, you don't leave it there. You carry it forward with you into life. That becomes the baggage you carry. This need of mine was not fulfilled. My mother is responsible for this. My father is to be blamed for this. My situation is to be blamed for this. And I carry that. And that becomes the baggage that I carry, and that's what makes us tired. Not today's tiredness, by the way. Okay? So you want to really start to look at what are the baggages I am carrying. So that's why I actually put this, wherein even those emotions which involve your relationships. Tell me one moment in your life that doesn't involve a relationship. Tell me one moment. Any moment, anybody? When you're sleeping? When you're sleeping, you have your relationship with your sleep. Tell me one moment where you don't have relationships. And even sleep comes to you when you have good relationships around you, isn't it? When you don't have anybody to belong to, do you think you'll sleep? You can't. So everything is interconnected. And with relationships, emotions are like topmost priority everywhere. With emotions, how much, with relationships, how much happy you can feel the same. Maybe the downslide is much more greater than the upslide. So you want to start to look at that. So let me first then get straight into emotions. What do you think is emotions? Anybody here can just throw out a word that's connected that comes to your mind when I say emotions? Feelings? Feelings is the first word that comes. Any other word other than feelings? How many of you all know hunger is an emotion? Hunger, you know? Please raise your hands. Okay. Thirst? Yeah. Is sadness an emotion? Feeling sad? It's a feeling. It's a feeling. And what's the emotion in your body? Emotions are more related to body. Feelings are more related to your mind, which you sense. But the body, whatever it shows, like for example, if you're sad, there is a pain in your chest. That's the emotion, right? So if I have to give you a definition for emotions, then you have this. Emotions are those complex processes. Yes, of course, you can't avoid it. They are complex processes because we are still trying to understand them. That evolved to enhance adaptation or, the adaptability to the environmental factors around you. If not for emotions, believe me, you and I wouldn't have survived. It's not your thinking that's telling you what's going on in your environment. It is your emotion that tells you. If, say, for example, you're sitting there and there comes a spider, or sorry, not a spider, not many of them are afraid, right? Let's say a scorpion. Scorpion, you're afraid? Or a snake? Let's take a snake. Say a snake comes beside you and you just see it. Do you think or do you feel? Do you have the time to think? So what happens? You just jump out. The fear, fear that just doesn't even think. There's no thinking happening there. There's just fear. You just jump out. Fear, you don't even know you're afraid. Your body takes over. And then you jump and you run. Or if you are powerful enough to catch the snake, you'll go and catch the snake. Right? Whatever. You either fight or flight. And the first thing that comes is emotion, not your thinking. So you want to start to see the importance of emotions. Unfortunately, the scientific community and all of us in the world shunned emotions for almost more than, I think, 60 years, from 1950 to almost to 2000, 1995, 45, 50 years, wherein because emotions cannot be measured, because they're subjective, people didn't want to look at it. Even in our everyday lives, we were told, don't feel sad. It's wrong to be angry. How arrogant you are, And boys don't cry. They made it such a... And then what were the consequences of it? What? We all struggle with BP issue, heart issues, heart attacks, and all of that. Because we suppress all those emotions, we have been told culturally it's wrong to emote. It's wrong to express. It's weak to express. So then people don't come out. Even if I ask you a question, why you didn't come out? Because you were fearful, you were afraid. What if I'm wrong? So you will not say. And it's wrong to be wrong also. It's wrong to make mistakes. All of these things have come culturally to us. And so we just keep suppressing. But fortunately, from the year 1995-2000, we are evolving and we are understanding the importance of emotions because they are at the foundation of thinking. How? So anyways, these are the biological signals that you get, and we all know emotions is energy in motion. We are all energy, and energy in motion is the most, which is the emotion. So that's emotion for you. You already have been fighting with this. Heart and mind fight. How many of you all know this? Yeah, everybody is fighting with this now. Heart and mind fight. The mind takes over, heart takes over, mind takes over, the heart takes over. I don't know when what will take over. But many of us want to listen to our hearts, right? But we have been told to listen to your mind. Right? So, if you start to look, your mind, what we call now scientifically, we call it as cognition. How many of you all are aware of the word cognition? I was not aware. I mean, one day I just saw one word which said, "Arey yaar, I know this word so well," but till now I was thinking, I don't know this word. You know which word is that? That all of us know? Recognition. Can I see it as recognition? So recognition is only, what is it? When you see something, oh, I know that. That's like you're recognizing it. So you're bringing your cognition, recogniting it. You're bringing that, recalling it. So that's a recognition. Then I said, "Arey yaar, this word was always in front of me and I didn't understand cognition." So that's simple it is. Cognition is involving all the cortex area. You have all that worm-like structure in your brain, right? All that worm-like structure is the cortex area, which involves cognition. And we have a limbic system, we have the brainstem, which is all involved with the emotionality. So we have these two systems, the emotional system and the cognitive system. And why that balancing is because, our performance as a human depends on this interplay. And that is what is called emotional intelligence. You know, if you start to look at, neither emotions are great or cognition is great. But we have made cognition very great because thinking is thinking. But how long to think? And it's become overthinking now. Everybody has a problem. Oh, I don't know how to stop my overthinking. Hello, you can't stop your overthinking. Bad news. How to deal with it then? That's the emotional intelligence. Because you've given very less importance to your emotions and you're giving too much of importance to your thinking. How will the balance happen then? So, this is what we need to really start to look at. So, now how do we do that in emotional intelligence? If I say emotional intelligence, so let's look at top 4 factors of emotional intelligence. So I'm going to take you through, and if possible in between, I'll share how did I use that skill to actually make through my life, right? So the first skill of emotional intelligence, like ma'am was saying, is so many challenges that you have to deal with outside in the external world. Then you have the internal world, you have the external world. So there are 2 worlds that you need to deal with. Which are the 2 worlds? One is the external world, which is out there, like the chair, table, people, everybody that is external to me is the external world. And then I have the internal world. So if you close your eyes, you can actually see your internal world. Everyone, if you can close your eyes for a while, for about 5 seconds, just see your internal world. What is it? Now, your eyes are actually the access point to the external world, majorly, that you see, because we give too much of importance. But if you see the connection between the internal and external world, majorly happens through sense organs, isn't it? You can sense, like you see the external world, you hear the sounds, then you actually, the touch, you can actually feel the touch kinesthetically. And then you have, the taste, the food that you taste or anything that you taste. And then you have the smell that you can. These are the 5 outside external sense organs, or which are visible. And then you have the internal. There are about 3 sense organs internally. The interoceptive sense, which actually catches your emotions. Now, tell me one thing. How many of you all are even aware of so many processes happening? You're all doctors, right? You're all studying medicine. Now, but how many of us actually get into yourself to really look at what's happening in my body, in my thoughts, in my feeling level? How do I get the sense of space? How do I get the sense of time? None of us stop to look at it. Now that's the skill I'm talking about, which is the intrapersonal skills. Now, I'm going to ask you to, either you can close your eyes or not close your eyes, but I just want you to sense your own body weight on the chair that you're sitting. Sense the touch of your body to your body, like your hands are touching your hands, right? Your hands may be on your thighs. Just sense that. Sense your feet on the ground. And now sense your breath. Now, how many of you all would want to acknowledge that before I asked you to sense, you didn't even know? I didn't know until I started to do this work. I didn't know I existed. I didn't know I existed. As simple as it is. So every day now I find my existence. I say, I wake up in the morning and I say, oh my God, I exist. I need to say hi to myself. How many of you all say hi to yourself? You come to college and say, hi, good morning, everyone. But have you said hi to yourself before that? We spoke about self-care. Before self-care, at least you need to know you exist, right? Whom to care for? Me. Who's this me? Hey, I have this body, I have this mind, I have this brain, I have this heart. Tell me one thing. How many of you all know hugging? How many of you all hug? Your parents, your sister, your brother, your friends, your spouses, right? How many of you all have hugged yourself? Any? No? Why? Because we have been told we hug others, we don't hug ourselves. No. Now that's the culture. Now, when COVID came, the good news about COVID is that COVID taught us that things change. Hello. And you need to adapt to change. Things are changing. You need to start to find yourself. If I have to care for others, I need to know how to care for myself. So we have most of the things we have actually spoken. Dr. Divya was speaking and we spoke about a lot of things. I'm just giving a structure to that. So the first one, the emotional self-awareness. Like I said, how are you feeling? What are you feeling? At what stage do you get triggered? What makes you angry? What makes you sad? Which relationships are very important for me? Which are the relationships that hurt me? Why do they hurt me? I get angry. I used to get very angry. I used to be somebody who was like, anger used to be on top of my nose, they say, no? Anger is on top of her nose. Every drop of her hat, she gets angry. I used to get angry like that some 10 years back. And in my profession, I used to work with the credit, I used to work in the credit section. And I used to have these salespeople with whom I had to deal with. And every day I would end up having 2-3 minimum fights with them. And every day I would come back home and say, I don't want to fight with them. I hate this. So somebody told me, write it down. I started writing 100 times. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight. And I noticed I started fighting more. I'm like, what's happening? I said, I don't want to fight. And then somebody told me, Arey, you are talking about fighting when you don't want to fight. I said, okay. So then I have to talk about what I want, not to talk about what I don't want. I said, okay, I want peace every day in my office. So for that, what do? I need to bring peace within myself, isn't it? So then I started with this journey of why do I get angry? What makes me angry? Rather than looking at this instant I'm getting angry, instead of looking at that moment to look at, instead of looking at why am I angry, I started to look at why actually do I even get angry? What is this anger all about? Then I started to go back into my life to see that I was born to a mother who was 15 and a half. My mother was 15 and a half when I was born. And this kid, that is me, I was 1.75 kgs when I was born. And then I was not, I don't even remember my parents around me. And there used to be about 15 to 20 people in the house. My grandfather used to support a lot of students, all in the family. And this kid, me, is lying down in the hall, and anybody would come pick up, give me whatever I need, go. There's no one caretaker I had because my mother was young. She didn't know how to take care. And it was a joint family. My mother had to work. My father was nowhere there to take care. So this kid, me, grew up independent from then onwards. And so I've never ever liked anybody coming and asking me, help me with this. I said, why should I help? Nobody helped me. My mother would ask me, I have a brother who was 1.5 years younger to me. She would ask me then only, teach him, no? I said, nobody taught me. I self-taught myself. Why should I teach him? I would throw tantrums like anything. So that was the anger child that grew up. And that continued. And then I started to get connected to that child. That makes me angry even today. So then many incidents later on that have added up, but that was the basic foundation. That's where I started to work towards. That was my emotional self-awareness, to understand what makes me angry. Everybody says, everybody gets angry, so I'm also getting angry. What's the big deal? No, I said, no, I'm going to find out what makes me angry. And that journey today, I'm very proud of myself to say that I don't get angry very fast. I pause. Every time anger is there, coming, I know, oh, anger is visiting me now. I need to really pause and look at it. I do communicate to people when I'm angry. And my son anyway gets to know with my face expresses it. I do tell him, when I'm angry, don't come near me, it's okay. And people they leave me alone. So they are safe, I am safe, I can take care of my anger if it comes. But it's very rare today because I visited my anger. I had this journey of emotional self-awareness. Assertiveness is the second one that within you need to find. We spoke about this, Dr. Divya spoke about it. Yes, assertiveness is not arrogance. It is the courage or the ability to stand for yourself. How would you stand for yourself in front of others if you cannot stand for yourself with your own self? If you said, I'm going to go for a walk, and then when the time comes, you say, oh my God, I want to sleep. It's so cold, and we give reasons we don't go for a walk. Are you standing for yourself? You're not even assertive with your own feelings and mood. Then how can you even be assertive with others then? You can't stand with others or for yourself in front of others if you cannot stand for yourself with your own self, which is your moods and feelings. They take over. So assertiveness starts from within. No journey starts from outside. Every journey starts from you. Your journey starts from you, inside. So this is that. And then you have how your self-regard. How well do you respect yourself? We all expect respect from others, isn't it? We want people to respect us. If somebody doesn't respect, you get really offended, isn't it? All of us do. But do you respect yourself? When somebody asks you, do this, and you want to say a no, how many of you all can actually say a no? How many of you all cannot say a no? Yeah, many of us cannot say a no. We have this fear, what will they think? That's the biggest fear. Then where is the self-regard that we have for ourselves? I'm doing something that is important for me. I have to keep that aside to go and do this. But I cannot say a no. So that is what stops us from actually belonging to ourselves. We want to belong to the world, but we cannot belong to ourselves. How does that work? So this is another dimension that you need to really look at. Do I respect and regard myself, my own values, my own principles, my own dreams, my own ideas? Do I value that before I value on others? That is something that you need to look at. Then how independent you are. So we are talking about women. This is not only for women or men, this is for humans, any which way. So are you independent, not about financially or economically or socially or anything like that, but are you independent for your own self? Can you do things for your own self? Or do you always need people to fall upon? So that's something that you need to really question for yourself. And of course, you have the self-actualization when you have all your needs met, that you have, physical needs, your safety needs, your relationship needs, everything is met. Then you'll start to, you're earning well, you have your family, everything is done. Then you'll start to think of, oh, what's the next thing for me? Like I'm now singing, then next year I'll be doing I want to learn dance. I want to really test my own stamina on that. That is my next need. So I go on to look at what else, is the self-actualization need, and what's the next step for me. So that is after all the needs are met. This is the intrapersonal within you that you are doing. Now, once you are grounded in this intrapersonal, the skills that you have, you're looking within yourself, then you have an access to this. Now you connect to others, which is you connect to your colleagues, your family, your parents, all of them are others. Anybody outside you is another person. So that's the interpersonal skills that that's the second aspect, dimensions of emotional intelligence. The first, you started looking at yourself, and then you start to look at your interaction with people around. So the first one we already have spoken is the empathy. And I was speaking about empathy. We need to, it's a very cliched word. Empathy has become a very cliched word. All of us want empathy, but what is it? What is empathy? We've been told about one sentence, putting yourself in somebody else's shoes. Is it really true? But that could also be sympathy. Pity. Have you heard of these also? You sympathize with people. You have pity towards people. When you see a beggar, you pity that beggar. Is that empathy? No. Empathy is much, much deeper than what we think it is. It's a beautiful feeling. It's a beautiful way of being, where you can sense another person's world, just like you can sense your own world, without even going to wanting to help to that person. You don't need to help that person. The moment you feel I want to go and help that person, empathy is lost. But most of us empathize with people because we want to do something to help them. Why? I want to be gratified. That's not empathy. Empathy is just to feel another person's world, another person's feeling, without even wanting to help. And knowing that that other person has the strength to deal with it. Because all of us have the strength to deal with it. Resilience is present in each and every one of us. No questions about it. If you think it is not there, you need to deal with it. But I don't, or anybody else will not. They'll still expect you to know. You will have the strength. You just have to unleash it. Find it out for yourself, which is the intrapersonal skill. So empathy is the first one. Then you have that side which is not visible, is the interpersonal relationships that you form for yourself in this life. And it changes in every age. In your school, you have your friends. Start with, when you are in primary school, you have your parents and your relatives, your brothers, sister, cousins are most important. Then comes your adolescent age, where you shift into your friends, your peers. That becomes more important. Parents are sidelined. And then comes another age of around 22 to 25, where you again understand the importance of parents. You go back. And then you have your workplace. You start to connect with colleagues, and you have to survive in your workplace and all of that. So there are different interpersonal relationships that you form. Start to look at that. So how is it going? What relationship doesn't work for you? What works for you? That's the question to ask for yourself. And then you have the community, which is a social responsibility. That you can do only when you are self-sufficient. You've understood yourself. Then otherwise, if you have not done the work with yourself, all that you do for socially will only be charity, which is just to look good, just to have a name, just to project to yourself that, oh, I'm doing something good. It's like you're finding your self-worth by doing something to others. But that's not how it works. That's why most of the people have shared with me that I've done so much for people, but still they hurt me. I said, what? How are they hurting you? Because I've done so much, they don't help me. Is that helping? No, then you need to really question. That is just to find your own self-worth. to feel that, yes, I am worthy of something on this life. That's why we end up doing charity. That's not social responsibility. So you want to really question all of that, which is very radical. What you think till now, what's the definition, may not be the definition, may not be that. So what I'm saying, all of this may be a little radical for you, which is very different from what you believe, what the culture has told you, but that's the way forward in the future. We cannot hold on to the definitions of the past to go into the future. Okay, so the third dimension is the adaptability, which ma'am has already spoken about. We all know we need to adapt, isn't it? But that's one of the biggest things as human species we have. And women, it's been much, much more difficult because we've been given extra roles. We had certain roles in the beginning, and then we started to take on, we want equality with men, and we started to take on many more roles. So we have multiple roles to play. And that requires this skill, which is very, very important. Now, the first aspect of this is reality testing. So, what do you think reality testing is? How many of you all agree with you when I say you live more in your life around assumptions than reality? You assume your boss doesn't like you, or you assume your sister-in-law is talking behind your back, or you assume your friend is talking something against you. You assume somebody is gossiping. What is the reality? You know, when I came back to my home after divorce, and I started staying in my house until I built my own house and shifted. My sister-in-law, my brother's wife, actually, she and me are entirely two different people. Like, can't even meet. It's like that. And still, I was like, because I was in this journey of self-awareness and connecting to people, I just went on sort of tolerating initially, but then later on, I started to understand that that's her way of thinking, and I cannot make it wrong. But then I understood one day that she has an assumption about me, because one day I asked my father something somebody had kept in my room. I asked, whose bag are these? And my father, being somebody who was always angry, he said, who else's? It is your sister-in-law's. She doesn't have anybody to tell or ask or something and all. He started to speak, which she heard. And she comes to me and she says, do you have a problem if these bags are there? I said, I don't have a problem. I was just curious to know whose bags are they. It was just curiosity out of which I asked. But then how did that go was, I heard some days later that she assumes that I am the one who talks to my father and makes him fight with her. So I instigate my father to create fights between her and him or anything at home. And that's the assumption she lives with. Wherein I don't have time to do any of that, by the way. Because I don't even stay at home, and I can't go and explain to her because she's not going to believe. Like that, all of us are living in assumptions. We are not going and testing what's the reality. So if you can actually start to see how much of your life is living in assumption, I promise you 80% of your life is living in assumption. But if you can even find one or two assumptions you're living with and you can let go of it, life will actually start to work for you. So adaptability starts with reality testing. Testing the reality, asking that person, do you think like this about me? Or what do you think about me? Having straight, direct conversations with people. That requires courage. It took 12 years for me to actually develop that courage. And I'm still developing. To directly start and talk to people about that. Either that relationship stays or it goes away. And it's going to hurt. And I'm going to deal with that hurt. Simple. I'm not going to continue dealing with that relationship if it doesn't exist from the other person. So you want to really ask yourself, how much of my life is assumptions? Or am I checking the reality? The second one, like ma'am has already said, is flexibility. How flexible I am. Am I willing to listen to feedbacks from people and think about, consider it, okay, this person said this, do I really consider this? Or do I get offended? It's been really not very easy, but then I started to consider. I always tell people, this is from my point of view that I'm saying. Now it is up to you. You have the freedom to either consider this feedback that I've given or not. If you don't want to, I have no issues. But my request is just like you, when you go to a mall, you check out 5-6 dresses, you go try it out. And then whichever fits you, you buy and come, right? So I'm asking you, check out the feedback that I give you like that. Considering it, try it out. If it doesn't work, leave it, but at least try it out once. So if you're not flexible enough to try what people say, not that you have to do it with whatever everybody says, but there are some people whom you value, right? Instead of feeling sad that they're giving this critical feedback to you, how about trying it out? Okay, they are giving this because they care for me. Even if it is negative, believe me, nobody is going to give you negative feedback if they don't care for you. If anybody has given you a negative feedback, it's only because they care for you. Why would they even want to give you a negative feedback? Why would you want to go and give a street passerby a negative feedback? You wouldn't. You will give it only to the ones you love, isn't it? Because you want them to really change for the change meaningfully, isn't it? So that is the flexibility that we speak about. And then with these two, you have your capability of problem solving. How well do I solve my problems? Does everybody have problems in your life? Or you don't? Anybody here who doesn't have a problem? Because only one thing, my view is, if I find someone, there are people who tell me, I don't have any problem. In my mind, what runs is, oh my God, then you're not living life. Because if you are living life fully, taking risks in your life and adventurously, you will have problems. Or you will find problems to solve. Now, you have a choice. You can actually make your own problems, create your own problems to solve, which are bigger ones. Like when I created my big problem, like, the small problems, like fights with my people, my son or my mother, my sister-in-law, all those became backseat because I found one big problem to deal with in life. And that one big problem was, how can I bridge the gap between teachers and students? That was my big problem that I took some years back, and I'm still pursuing that. This PhD is inside that, to actually solve that big problem. Now, I may not be able to solve the problem, but I may be able to give this much contribution into that field. That makes my life worth. I can die peacefully because I've lived my life fully with a problem to solve. And not every day tidbits, all these small problems to solve. So now these small problems don't look big because I have that big problem to solve. My focus is always there. That was one shift that happened in my life. I was like so thankful. Today also I thank that big problem that I've chosen. I say thank you so much because you actually helped me get away with small problems, small issues that I have in my life. So have one big problem. If you create that big problem, your problem solving will always keep going up one level every time. The last one is how well do you manage stress? How many of you all like the word stress, by the way? Nobody writes. Doesn't that word stress itself create stress in your mind? Yeah? So this word is so overused, that poor thing. This word has, it's not a mistake of that word, by the way, but by the meaning we have put to that word. But by the way, do you know that you cannot wake up in the morning if there is no stress that is created in your body? Do you know that? Which is the stress hormone, by the way, you all know that? Adrenaline, cortisol. Cortisol, if cortisol is not generated in the morning, first thing in the morning, you cannot wake up. So, stress is good to the extent that you accept it, or you have the ability to, in fact, all of you have the ability to deal with it, but because culturally, We've been told stress, 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 stress. Without having stress in our life, we get stressed. And if I don't have stress in my life, then I'm stressed because I don't have stress. Because everybody else seems to be having stress, I don't have. How can I be different? No, I need to be like others. Sometimes I don't want to be like others. Sometimes I want to be like others. So the meaning that we have put to stress. So I've heard this saying that stress itself doesn't put stress on you. Stress comes to you because of the meaning you have put to stress. So stress management becomes a big issue for us because stress itself we resist. So one of the first stresses, or what we look at in stress management, is how well can you tolerate stress? Because you like it, you don't like it, stress is going to be there with you. Are you willing to take it? Can't do anything about it. You know, you're living in this world of seven odd billion people. Each one of us have our own thinking. Some of us accept certain things, some of us disagree. Agreement, disagreement, the push and pull is always happening on in this environment. You think you will be able to live life without stress? In a family of 3 people, 2 people, so many disagreements and fights. Imagine then with the thousands and lakhs and billions and millions of people. Stress is never, never, ever going to leave you. That's going to be one big problem to solve every day. But how do you take that as a problem? Are you going to be helpless? Are you going to be a victim of stress? Or are you going to be somebody who's going to drive stress? Is something that it's up to you. So how well do I tolerate stress? How well does my body tolerate stress? Is something that you need to question. And the one access point to handle your stress, anybody can tell me one access point you have, one simple access point. Sleep, yes, sleep is at the foundation of everything. If you don't sleep 7 to 8 hours a day, you will anyways get stressed. Small things also will make you stressful, but one access point consciously. Sleep is subconscious, not a conscious one. You sleep. Breathe. Breath is the best access point that you have. If you every day can give yourself an awareness of your breath for 2 minutes or 1 minute in the morning, 1 minute in the afternoon, it's like taking medicine, you know. You have one medicine in the morning, one, like that if you can take. 1 minute, 1 minute, 1 minute. So 1 minute of morning, you become aware of your breath, 1 minute in the afternoon, 1 minute in the evening. That will actually help you really. You practice this for a week and just see the difference. I've been practicing this for about a year and so, and I'm also practicing this. I have practice sessions which I give about 20 other people. And this exercise that we do for 2 minutes in that session, we do breathing protocols. We find out how many breath cycles I have in a minute every day. That itself has given so much of peace to all of us. Just 2 minutes every day in the morning. So I promise you it will work. Just take it on. Okay, so the last one is the impulse control that we have, which we always take decisions on. When I'm going on a mall and I see a nice dress, I want to buy it no matter what, however expensive it is, I want that dress. That's taking a decision impulsively because it's something is turning me on there. So it's so default. It's like I can't control it. So how well can you control it? How well can you identify all those impulses that you have and control it? Is what reduces your or helps you manage your stress. So that's something that you can manage if you become aware, which is the first one, intrapersonal skills. And in my research, I found that intrapersonal skills and stress they go together hand in hand. If your intrapersonal skills are less, then your stress will be high. So you want to reduce your stress, get into knowing yourself, asking questions like what makes me angry, what triggers me, and all of those things. Your stress will certainly reduce, and become aware of your own breath, your own existence. So that is what really helps you manage your stress. Okay, so in fact, so let me actually, as I am speaking of stress, I want to as I already have told you, the more you resist stress, the more you're going to have stress. So you need to really stop resisting and start assisting life. It's like we have ended up resisting life But how about assisting life than resisting life? Everything that happens outside you is outside your control. Instead of resisting all of it, how about finding out how can I assist what's happening? So that's what this slide says. Nothing is hard. It's only your resistance to it. So life actually isn't very hard if you stop resisting it. In fact, whether you like it or not, life is always happening to you. Your brain is always receiving it. But how much or when or how long or even for a minute do you reflect what you're receiving? Because you cannot stop receiving. Your sense organs will always continue receiving. But reflection is a choice. You can reflect on what you're receiving. Oh, I'm receiving all things that are unwanted. That is possible when you to know what is unwanted. That's possible only when you become aware of what you're receiving. And then you can choose what you want to receive. That is possible only when you reflect what you're receiving. And that is possible when you stop resisting. And you start observing life and say, oh, okay, this is a tree, this is my college, and these are my friends, and let me look eye to eye to my friend. Talk to that person, be with that person, what that person is saying. So that's life. And you have your emotions, which you will start to look forward to look through. And so I would want to end with actually this. Some of it is not visible. So it only says that be sad when you want to feel sad, be angry when you want to be angry. Feel all your emotions. Don't escape from them. The more you're going to escape your emotions, the more you're going to resist your emotions. Your cognition also will fail. Your thinking also will fail. So please take your life, go along with life, stop resisting it. And let the chaos do its work. In fact, the chaos that you find in life is what actually works for you. If it is always in order, life becomes boring. So accept all the challenges, accept the failures. In fact, I heard ma'am say, I don't like the word failure. I did think about it, but then I think I love the word failure because failure is a part of life. If I don't love it, then I can't live it. Neither can I find success. So failure is a part of it. For me, at least, I get her point. Because the word failure is not a problem. But the meaning that we have put to that word is the problem. The cultural context that has come to us on that word is the problem. So I would end my talk saying that allow the chaos to do the work. Because chaos is what leads to creation. Thank you.
Any questions from the audience? Now I request the chairpersons to give their comments.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, so I thank the organizers, organizing this 15-day long program. The entire committee has worked to have such luminaries speak to you. So I thank both the resource person, Dr. Divya, as well as Mrs. Padma, for enlightening us on these two important topics, right? Emotions, yes, and resilience. So resilience comes when we know our emotions, realize our emotions, and how to deal with it. So emotions are not bad. Yes, we are humans. So that is where the difference we need to feel. And every individual is a different individual. So we have different emotions, but how we get along with these and become resilient is what the speaker spoke about. So I congratulate both of them, and I also thank both of them for giving us this opportunity to be a party to it. So thank you all, and I now request Dr. Renuka Madam to kindly give her opinion about the sessions.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Mamta. One is, I think all of us should give a round of applause for both the presentations. Yeah. It was, I think, a very unique experience. I was here. Being a woman, I could connect with their presentations, right? And like they were all showing a lot of slides, very attractive, very meaningful slides, and both of them have put their own independent efforts, right? And the way they showed that brain and emotion, you know, on a seesaw. So I feel they actually worked on both aspects. They are, women with brain and also with emotion. The presentations usually is more technical, but here they got so involved in their making up those slides. And I think that really matters. And the program success all matters when the presenters involve themselves. And I think each of us have got a message. In fact, I just love the way they were trying to express, and not just with trying to capture the slides from the online sites, but putting their own slides and trying to connect and make us realize, right? And I think there are few things, of course, though it is late, I would like to tell, because I'm given this chairperson post, I'll make best use of it, right? And being a teacher, I never go silent. That is my take. And I think what they were just telling, kind of a life or an ECG. I think all of us know ECG graph, right? The graph is such that when it is flat, you're dead, right? So it only says, the whole thing, the presentation and whatever we are trying to learn was all ups and downs, and, we go through stress, and a good stress is called eustress, right? And we need a stress, otherwise we'll never wake up for an alarm call or a snooze, or somebody say, hey, wake up, right? So I think we all need to go through this. And I think the best thing is I want to acknowledge I'm blessed to be a woman, born as a girl, because that made me so strong, so strong. I think you can make your world. It's not the world makes you, you can make it. And it is all how you start aligning with people around, right? And maybe in workplace or at home, some people do counter you initially, I'm telling you, but that's not the end. You always have just wait, pause, and I guarantee you things will change. They realize what has gone with them, and they understand you after some time, and they do have a face of regret, and they become good friends to you. That is my own experience in life. I'm 50 plus, so that only endorses to say that nobody is bad at the outset. Each of us go through emotions. Being a man or a woman, all of us have emotions, but then give time to others. Maybe in workplace or at home. Even workplace, I think nobody is against us, right? We all come, when we are all joining together, we are all good to each other. How suddenly things go wrong is all because the person is going through some bad times, right? And if you just give them time, a day will come, definitely I vouch that they will change and everything turns out to be good. So being mindful of your own reaction to them and giving them time to recover from whatever nonsense they have done with you, it's only, time will tell you. So I think this being a last session, and I thank Divya for taking us through a very slow, steady presentation, very lovely slides she had. And a youngster who has got so much to do as a woman, as a mother, as a professional, definitely let's all wish her good luck in her future endeavor. And these kind of presentations needs a repetition, because we are in a time when such things have to be, driven out. But I think the society is supportive to us. And one thing is you need to voice your concern. That's what both the presentations have brought across. don't hesitate. If you cannot do alone, identify another person who can join you, and you have to voice it. And if it is done in a right way, maybe a little late, but never, the organization will know that what is it that's happening with you, and they will, definitely an organization is bigger than an individual. Maybe an organization will have its own reasons to hold on, but then they will realize that this is what you are trying to convey, and they are always with us. And also, the organization like JSS AHR has been amazing to me personally, as well as for all of us. I think we are all sitting here because they have given us that freedom. So let's enjoy that freedom and be a woman of substance. I thank both of them. I thank Dr. Mamta also to be with me. I thank the organizers. I thank JSS AHR. 3 cheers to JSS AHR. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I request the chairpersons to facilitate the resource persons. Ma'am to felicitate our chairperson. For the session, and also for the OT who are now joined online and offline. Okay, and tomorrow is the validity for this 15 days program. Join here by 9:30. I request everyone to join by 9:30 morning. Thank you all. Thank you one and all.